Hey there folks, this is Dan Dix here from Press for Truth, and today I wanted to go over some of the current low oil prices. Now there are a lot of factors at play here. There's lots of different theories as to why, from the Saudis punishing North Dakota's shale gas production, to Canada's oil sands, or to punishing Iran. There's even those that think that this is just a market phenomena, just a play between supply and demand. Well, of course, we don't live in a free market economy, especially when it comes to oil. So we have to look at some of the more nefarious motivations behind these current low oil prices. We have to ask, qui bono? Who benefits? There seems to be a consensus amongst the Russians, Iranians, Venezuelans, and Bolivians that this is a Saudi-American conspiracy. And there might be some truth to this. Americans conspired with the Saudis in the 1980s to drive down oil prices in order to bankrupt the Russians, and it seems like this is the game plan once again. Now we can rule out that the Saudis can't be involved in some kind of a conspiracy. They traditionally cut production when prices get too low, but they've just announced that they're not going to stop even if prices drop below $20 a barrel. But why? Why are they abandoning their normal production outputs? It is in their economic interest to command a higher price, so there must be other non-monetary factors involved. They must have some ulterior motive that's not about making money. We know that in September of 2014, John Kerry met Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah, where it's rumored that a deal was made to boost production in order to hurt Iran and Russia. Now the idea was to flood the market with crude oil and thereby hurting the two regimes whose exports are heavily dependent on oil. Now like I said, this was done in the mid-1980s to destabilize Saddam Hussein's regime and to put pressure on the former Soviet Union. But the fact is that OPEC is a cartel, and these kind of backroom deals happen all the time. There is no free market pricing in oil. Now, not only do the Americans and the Saudis benefit from putting pressure on the Russian and Iranian regimes, but lower oil prices help the domestic situation in America. See, despite bogus statistics and economic propaganda, the American economy has in fact been in a recession since 2008, and it is expected to continue and to get worse this year. Lower oil prices means that cheaper gas prices means cheaper transportation costs for goods and services. So in effect, while the cheaper oil hurts shale production in North Dakota, it serves DC's interests. It takes off pressure for Obama to approve the Keystone pipeline. And as well, cheaper oil gives the illusion that Americans are richer. I mean, who doesn't like cheaper gasoline prices? It also serves the elite's interests in implementing the North American Union. Canada's economy, particularly Alberta's economy, is dependent on oil exports, and cheaper oil means fewer projects and fewer imports. It also affects the Canadian dollar. Just today, the price of a barrel is looking like it's going to dip below $50. Well, the Canadian loonie is below the 85-cent level. So our dollar is directly tied to the price of oil. So an 85-cent loonie means that Canadians now have a lower purchasing power. So for every American dollar, we can only get 85 cents of our own money. And this shows up in the price of gold and silver, where in American dollars, an ounce of gold right now is $11.95, but for Canadians, it's $14.09. And the same in American dollars, an ounce of silver is $15.92, where for Canadians, it's $18.78. So low oil prices do impact Canadians negatively, or at least as long as we continue to accept central bank fiat as our medium of exchange. This discrepancy between our currencies may only provoke the desire for Canadians to further integrate our economy with the Americans' economy. And for various reasons, Canadians, well, they like it when the Americans and the Canadian dollars are on par. If oil prices drop further, not only is it going to negatively impact Russia and Iran, Americans' enemies, but it will also popularize this idea that North America should have a common currency. Now, although it's never as public and as obvious, Canada does have an independent sovereign nation. It's also the enemy of America, or rather an enemy of the global elite. They'd like to see all countries give up their sovereignty to this global government that governs over large economic blocs like the European Union. Now, the North American Union has been in the works for a long, long time now, and in many ways it's practically already here. But one area where they have yet to make a power grab is in the currency. Now, although there have been calls for a common currency, so far there haven't been no cries that have sparked Canadians' interest in this kind of a venture. With low oil prices, an 85-cent loonie dropping, this could be the problem that they need to get the reaction that they're looking for. And the solution? Well, a common currency for all of North America. So no doubt there is some kind of Saudi-American conspiracy going on here. It's obviously directed at Russia and Iran's oil-dependent economies. And it's the same move that they made back in the 80s against Iraq and the former USSR. It's an offshoot of this strategy, could be the further implementation of the North American Union. However, if we don't react in the way that they want, then this whole Hegelian dialectic just won't work. If instead of detesting a weaker loonie by falling into the trap of a North American common currency, we point the fingers at the Bank of Canada, we could thwart their plans. See, we need to remember that having a central bank and calling ourselves a free society are entirely incompatible with each other. It doesn't matter if the central bank is owned by politicians or offshore bankers. Asking for a monopoly over money is just asking for trouble. But nevertheless, the current situation with low oil prices is being driven by politics, not by market forces. The actions of the Saudis are directly benefiting the Anglo-American empire in their latest attempts to cause civil unrest in Russia and to oust Putin. Now, the same can be said in Iran, a country that has been on the globalist hit list since they toppled the globalist Shah puppet in 1979. And it's clear that the Anglo-American empire is asserting its dominance across Asia, and manipulating world oil prices is just one of the many tricks that's up their sleeve. Now, it's not unreasonable to suggest that this same trick may provoke further implementation of the North American Union. You kill two birds with one stone, after all, as the saying goes. So that's all for today, folks. I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Be sure to check the links in the description to where you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And stick around. We're going to have a lot more video reports coming very soon to pressfortruth.ca.